Hello and welcome. March is Women's History Month, and this month HOMTV is presenting a series called Women's Program Series. And today we are interviewing Leslie Charles. She is an author and speaker, and I know, unofficially, I know that you help people out, I know, because you are very inspirational. And so I want to thank you for coming on the program today.
My pleasure, Deborah.
So let's back up.
Okay.
I know today you have some very exciting things going on this year with a book and a website. But I want to go back a few years because your story is an inspiration. And when I read it, I teared up.
Oh, wow.
I did. And I could tear up thinking about it. Teen years are very hard. They're difficult on a lot of young men and young women.
Yeah.
And sometimes we find ourselves in situations that can be hard. I'm really tearing up. And you are an inspiration. Tell us, when you were 16 years old, dropped out of high school.
I finished the 10th grade and took the express lane to the altar. And I ended up having 3 children before I was old enough to vote.
Wow.
So life was rather grim. It was what we call an ill-fated marriage. And I had the sense, although I didn't know what to do about it. And when I was 21, I went back to high school thinking maybe I can at least get my education.
Yeah.
And took some classes, and for the second time in my life, I flunked algebra. And so for the second time in my life, I dropped out of school. This was not a confidence builder, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
And then when I was 25, the marriage ended, and all of a sudden, here I am. What am I going to do? I have these 3 kids. I have no education. I only had jobs cleaning people's houses, so I had what you would call a skeletal resume.
Yeah.
So I faked my education. I got a job working full-time, living just above the poverty line. And this went on for 2.5 years. And I think there have been...
What kept you motivated?
Oh, I wasn't motivated.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't. I just slogged day by day by day. Short-term goal, get up in the morning. Long-term goal, stay up all day. And that was until one night I had what I call an enlightening and my first sort of backward motivation pity party. And I realized I have to change something. I want my life to change. And 2.5 years had gone by, no one had come to change my life, so it looked like it was up to me.
Yeah.
So what I did, I had no idea what I wanted. So it was wanting to get away from what I had. I didn't know what I wanted, I only knew what I didn't want. And as a result, I started thinking, so what would I like? I'd love to have an education. So somehow I found out that there was this thing called a GED. So I took the GED, I passed everything with very high percentiles, except guess which one?
Math.
Math. And yet everything else was high enough that I didn't have to go back to school. So now I had my GED. And I heard about a program with the Department of Social Services that would help people like me. So I went with my GED scores and I said I want to change my life. And I went on welfare for 2 years and went to Lansing Community College on a grant. Quit my job, and when I graduated, I should add, with honors, and it was very intimidating. I have to say, if there's anyone watching us and thinking, oh my gosh, I don't know if I could do that, it's one step at a time, and getting help, getting support wherever you need it. And I had a couple of friends who said, go for it.
I was going to ask you who your support system was during this time.
I have always been adept at having 1 or 2 best women friends. And they were in the same kind of situation I was in. They were married, unhappily, or divorced. One was married, one was divorced. And they would let me talk. I'm an extrovert, so I have to talk my issues. And I just kept on plugging away at school, but I was afraid I'd flunk out. I graduated with honors.
Well, how old were your children when you graduated with honors?
Oh, let's see. I was 29, so they were in their 13, 12, and 9.
So they're middle school, elementary school age. So they're watching their mom
Study.
pick herself up, study, put herself. I have a very similar story. Just think why we connect so well. You know, single mom, just, I didn't want that life for my children either.
Right.
And so hearing your story and I know there are other stories out there, and it's a struggle, and it doesn't mean when you're working to get yourself out of a situation that every day is happy. And that can be hard. And it
Very
can
hard.
deter people and turn them away from going towards that goal.
Well, and you're going to get a pushback from people as well. I remember people looking at me, the food stamps, as I would be in the grocery store,
Yep.
and the woman who had the market right behind my house, and I would go over to buy a loaf of bread or something, and every time I walked in there, she'd go, "You got a job yet?" And so having to put up with that, but it's also helpful to know you have a plan. For the first time in my life, I had a plan, and I stuck to that plan. And as soon as I graduated, I divorced Department of Social Services, and I went back into the work world, not with the perfect jobs, but I guess I need to say that sometimes failure is a really important learning, or knowing when to take another turn. I just came up with a quotation the other day that I made up, and it says, "Lessons I wish I had learned earlier. Know when to talk, know when to balk, and know when to walk."
Okay, yes.
And I experienced all of those in my first 3 jobs. I was actually almost fired from my first 3 jobs, and I knew enough to leave before the ultimate happened. But also the skills that I have, the skills innate that I was born with, which are persistence, independent thinking, which was called rebelliousness when I was a child, and creativity. Those are innate skills that we're born with, which I'll be talking about in the book I'm writing now, because they are our superpowers. They are our signature strengths, and those are what have helped me get to where I am today.
So when you got your PhD, what were you thinking at that time? What am I going to do now? Where do I go now?
Well,
because those thoughts happen with
would this
every,
be the PhD of hard knocks in life?
Yeah, yes, that's right. That's right. That's right. So you know, when everyone graduates and they make it, and it's that next step of hard knocks life.
Yeah.
Where do I go now?
Well, you have to trust the process sometimes. Try something, it isn't working, okay, let's move laterally. Let's go over here and try this. And continue trying until something works. How I got into being a speaker was quite by accident. I was attending classes at Lansing Community College on Saturdays. The man who was running the show noticed these faces that showed up every week and introduced himself. We talked, and it just so happened that after I quit my first adult job with the Xerox Corporation, I ran into him downtown, Lansing, and he said, what are you up to? And I said, oh, funny you should ask, I'm looking for a job. And he knew about my welfare background, and he hired me as a group facilitator to work with hardcore unemployed.
Really?
Yeah, people with all kinds of disabilities. So he was hiring people who had been there, done that. He had quite a few of us who had disadvantaged backgrounds. And then I worked with him for 2 years and then launched my own business. So by the time I got to MSU and was working on my bachelor's degree, I already was doing what I wanted to do for a living.
Had you always wanted to do that?
Oh no, I had no clue. It was just, this isn't working, move over here. So if we did a lifeline, I mean, there are a few people, their lifelines are straight like this. Mine is, like that, down, crawl back up, that kind of thing. And it's just a case of continue on. It's our story, and my story keeps me humble. And it keeps me wanting to touch other people's lives. I think of myself as igniting the passion within. That's a lot of what I speak about. And my tagline is inspiring spirits and inspiring change. So it's just, let me ignite the spirit you have and let you look inside yourself at a better you than what you see.
Was it tough making that transition into having your own business?
Yes and no. I couldn't be fired.
Yeah, that's right.
It was one of those.
You have your own job performance evaluation.
Yes,
right?
yes. Well, I do evaluations from the people who are in my
That's
audiences.
True.
Oh, yes.
That's true.
So I've learned a lot in that way.
right.
It was scary. It was a big risk, and I gave myself, I'll try this for 2 years. And the first year, my business grew 50%
Wow.
in income, and the same thing happened the next year. So I thought, I'm in the right spot.
And you enjoyed it?
Oh my gosh, it feeds my spirit. I tell people I don't have the decency to retire.
Now, your first book
Stick to it, The Power of Positive Persistence.
came out in the early 90s?
Yes, I think
Okay.
1992.
The early 90s. And you've written how many books since then?
6 since
Six.
then. Well, 6, 7 actually. I'm working on my 8th.
You're working on your 8th book.
Right.
Which book would you say that came out to the audience propelled you?
Well, it would have to be The Why Is Everyone So Cranky, which is a book that put me in the national media for 2 years, and it was just a huge media wave, I guess you would say. And
Because they were all cranky behind the scenes. They needed your book, Leslie. They
I
needed
have
you
stories.
on the air talking.
Oh, yes. I have a media person in Detroit, WJR. I drove all the way to WJR for an interview, and I get there and traffic, all that,
Yeah.
and I'm told the studio's broke. We can't do your interview today. And I said, okay, let me know when it's fixed and we'll reschedule. And Vanessa Denha is her name, and she and I are friends to this day. She was
Really?
so blown away that I wasn't like, what have you done?
You weren't cranky.
No, not at all.
Stuff happens. What can you do?
Right.
Yeah.
So that book has, it's still one of the very popular topics that people ask me to do for their groups. And I've seen some additional trends and things that are happening in our society. I think of myself as a social critic, but mostly what I really want to do is help people stamp out misery.
Yeah.
I want people to quit being so miserable. I want people to be happy, and I see so many people who focus on the negatives and the problems instead of the possibilities. So I try to switch that mindset as much as I can.
Yeah, I'm always telling people that I enjoy when a resume comes across my desk that says that someone was a cheerleader, because when you're at a game and your team is down, you're still up.
Right.
You always have to be up, and you always have to try to get other people happy and cheering the team on and excited.
Don't give up.
Don't give up. Never
Right.
give in. I mean, those are some of the chants that I'm sure everyone at home has heard. Never give up. Never give in. Like all those kinds of things. Rise up. Get going again. Like all.
And
all
say
those-
it to yourself constantly.
Every day.
Yes, every day.
Every day.
More than once a day even.
Yep.
Because in here we have what I call our 24-hour radio station, WWME. All you, all the time.
So
and you are
true.
the sole DJ and the sole listener, and you can either have the hand-wringing hour or you can have the happy hour. It's up to you.
But sometimes that's okay.
Yeah, we need to look at the
Last night
side.
I called my husband and I was feeling down, and I was just really down. I didn't know I was so down. I was just down. And then a miracle happened today, and I had a meeting with somebody, and it completely changed the whole perspective that I had last night. And I thought, why was I so down about that?
Well, we
But sometimes
we hit these little speed bumps every now and then,
Yep.
and that's why I have this little card.
Yeah, your card, this is a fantastic card. I don't know if, I'm going to try to hold it up so you can see it at home. The design that's yours is phenomenal.
My new logo.
Your new logo design. on the back of your card is basically your contact information, who you are, kind of thing.
Right.
But it has a gratitude list. On the front, it talks about
The 5 things you may feel most grateful for. Fill out the card. The
Yes.
5 things you feel most grateful for. And if you're ever having a moment where you're starting to go cranky,
yes.
haul the card
Yeah.
out and read that. And it's the shortest stress management seminar you can impose upon yourself.
So we have a couple minutes left, and I have some in my office, so if anyone wants one, you can let me know. We have a couple minutes left, real quick. The book that you're working on right now and the website. I know from putting on a website how painstaking it can be. And I
Oh,
know you
yes.
have your gratitude list, so every time you're frustrated with your website, I know you're looking at this list.
I love my webmaestra, absolutely, and her assistant. I've just been having so much fun. LeslieCharles.com is the old website turning into the new website.
Turning into the new one.
I've committed Webthanasia. The old one, pull the plug. The new one is
Yep.
being birthed probably by next week, maybe even
How
this
exciting.
weekend.
Oh, that's exciting.
And the book I'm working on now, this is Women's History Month, so I'm going to share the title. It's called Discover the Superpower of Big Girl Panties.
Oh,
And the subtitle is From Ball Baby, that is B-A-W-L, to Ball Buster, B-A-W-L.
I love it.
And it is hilarious. It's humorous self-help. Oh my gosh, I adore this book.
Because you've seen the plaque in my office.
I did see that plaque,
Says
yes.
put your big girl panties on and deal with it.
And
deal
yes.
with it.
And now
So I love your title.
Oh, thank you.
I'm going to love this.
I'm in love with it, absolutely.
Any last minute words of wisdom, advice that you want to say, that you want to add?
Keeping it really simple. The best thing I can say right now is to treat yourself as you would your best friend. Be kind, be compassionate, and be patient with yourself. And if you have a moment, think about something that you feel grateful for. That's it.
Good words of advice. Thank you so much. Appreciate you coming on.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank
and
you.
I want to thank you at home for watching. This has been another episode of March is Women's Month.